Psalms 27, verse 1. And it reads, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" We all go through challenges in life. Is that true or not? There's no such thing as a perfect life, someone that has no issues in life. Let us think of Jesus. Well, he's God, right? The Son of God. Did he not struggle in life? Definitely. Imagine us being sinners. We definitely have struggles in life. And we can help other people. These challenges can bring us closer to God. And they could also help others by sharing it with others. Today I'm going to share my testimony, something that I went through 20 years ago that has greatly affected my life, of whom I am today. As I mentioned, there are many challenges, but we are not to be angry about it or, blame it on God. Lord, why did I go through this? Well, I'm not the best actor. But, not get angry about it, because God, he allows things for a reason. Sometimes we might ask, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to this person? For some reason, God allowed it. His ways are always the best, not our ways. As I said earlier, we are sinners. Our ways is never the best. For some reason, God allows certain things, but his ways are always the best. What we need to do is trust him. So I'm going to start this story. This is, like I said, 20 years ago. This was about spring of 2004, around the month of May. I believe it was May when this happened. I was feeling sick. I was having headaches. I was having fevers. I remember at night I would go over to my parents' bedroom telling them, I'm feeling sick. I don't feel well. I remember my mother putting a small towel with cold water, to bring down the fever, to help me feel better. I remember a few of those nights. I don't know how long I was having these symptoms, but my mother, what she thought is that I had the flu. That's what she thought I had, because those are symptoms of the flu. The headaches, fevers, and stuff like that. Well, it came a Saturday morning. I'm assuming my father had Sabbath school at our church that Saturday morning because he left before us. Like, we usually go to church together. That time it's my mom, my dad, my younger brother, and myself. My little sister wasn't born at that time. So my dad, he left for church early, and my mom was preparing my little brother and myself for church. I was in the bathtub. My mom was helping me take a bath, and I got very emotional. I started to cry. And my mom says, "Why are you crying? What's wrong?" I'm like, "Mom, the song that was playing in the CD player, it's over. I want that song." It's not my usual self to cry for such a simple thing. And my mom says, "We could just replay it. It's the CD player. It's not like the radio. On the radio, you can't replay a song. The radio goes on and on, but this was a CD player." And my mom notices, I'm acting quite strange. I didn't cry that easily. I wasn't much... Let's see, should I use the word cry baby? But I was 6 years old at that time. If I was 2 or 3, okay, but you get me, I was 6 years old. And I'm crying because the song that I wanted had finished. Like I said, my mom, she's like, something is definitely wrong with her. But I get out of the bathtub and I faint. My mom immediately, she contacts my dad, finds a way to tell my dad that they have to take me to ER. They have to take me to the hospital. Something is wrong with me. As I mentioned, during the week, I had headaches, I had fevers, I'm being very emotional, and now I had fainted. My dad, he comes home to the house as soon as he can, and they take me over to the hospital. As Pastor Dan told you guys, I'm from Grand Rapids. They take me over to Blodgett Hospital, to ER there. When you're in ER, first you describe what happened, what's wrong with the person, with the patient, and then they do several tests on you. They check your blood pressure, they check how your pulse is, your temperature, several tests. Some results come sooner than others. Others take longer. All the results that were coming right away, they were well. Seems like nothing was wrong with me according to these results that are coming in right away. But as I mentioned, some results take longer, so we didn't have the results of all the tests. My parents, they tell me that the doctor, he took a close look at me. He took a close look into my eyes. And the doctor said, yes, something is wrong with this child. Take her over to Butterworth Hospital. At that time, the Helen DeVos Children's Hospital didn't exist. That huge building on downtown Grand Rapids, that didn't come up until years later. The children's hospital, I believe, was called the DeVos Children's Hospital. So they take me in an ambulance over to that hospital, and they do more testing on me. Day one at that hospital, like I said, they're doing several tests, and they believe I have meningitis. How many of you guys have heard of that disease? It's a rare disease, isn't it? It's not very common. Meningitis, it's inflammation or swelling of the membranes that cover the brain and the spinal cord. That's what they believe I have on day one over at the Butterworth Hospital. They keep on doing tests on me. They keep on checking how I'm doing. Day two, I have a seizure. For the first time, I have a seizure. Then they're like, no, we got to check more her brain. The spinal cord is in, like, my spinal cord was fine. We need to check the brain. And they do brain testing such as the EEG. That's a very common test. EEG, this is a painless medical test that measures the electrical activity of the brain. They do the MRI. The MRI, that stands for magnetic resonance imaging. I remember, for the EEG, they put little metal things on your brain to check the electrical activity. The MRI, you pretty much lay down, they put you in a machine, and there they see the images of the brain. They do several tests, and as I said, I was a child. I was 6 years old at the time. I'm this weak child. They're doing all these testings, and they recognize that it's not meningitis that I have, but instead, what I have is encephalitis. How many of you guys have heard of that disease? That's another rare disease, and it's very dangerous. A virus is what causes encephalitis. But encephalitis, that's inflammation of the brain itself. So if that inflammation is not stopped, that leads to death. But that's what I had. I had encephalitis. Encephalitis, as I mentioned, is a rare disease. It affects 10 to 15 people per 100,000 people each year in the U.S. Not very common. And the most common ways to get it is a mosquito bite or something like that. I have no idea how I got this disease, but like I said, that's the common way, like through a mosquito bite. Let me get some water real quick. Sorry about that. Well, after they diagnosed me with encephalitis, they put me in coma. There, in coma, obviously I don't remember anything. One is unconscious. The patient is not aware of what is happening. And there, the doctors, they try to stop the inflammation. But what makes it really hard is that they don't know what the virus is. What's that virus that's causing the inflammation of the brain? My parents, they were told, the doctor, sets my parents apart and tell them, there is a 50% chance that your child will make it and a 50% chance that she will not make it. Obviously, this is terrible news. My parents, they're already very worried. I'm sick, I'm in coma, I'm very weak, I have all these cords on me, I'm in coma, and then they tell my parents that I might not make it. There's a chance I might die. Family and friends, they contact my parents. As I mentioned, when I was first taken to ER, this was a Sabbath morning. My dad, he left church. So people in church, they're like, something's going on with the Pununcia family. So they contact my family, not only friends, but also family, and they say, how can we help? What could we do? My parents say, pray for our daughter, pray for her. Let us go to the book of Philippians. Philippians chapter 4, we're going to read verses 6 and 7. Philippians 4, 6, and 7. And it reads, "Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. Let your requests be made known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Prayer, it's a gift that God has given us. It's a conversation that we have with God. Imagine that. We were able to talk with the one that created us, the all-powerful, the King of Kings and Lords of Lords. It's a conversation with him. And I have no doubt, I know for certain, God, he listens to all our prayers. He listens to every single prayer. But not always do we get what we want, but that he listens. He listens to our prayers. I know that God was listening to everyone that was praying for me. But not only for me, there's also other prayer requests, right? Pastor Dan there, he mentioned some prayer requests. God, he listened. God, he is good. God, he is love. At that time, as I said, I was 6 years old. This is spring. I was finishing kindergarten. That was the grade I was in. At that time, I went to GRA, to the Grand Rapids Adventist Academy. There, my teachers, there are people in my school praying for me. Those that had asked my parents, how can we help? There was a friend from church that she started a chain of prayers. So she shared it with her friends, her family, and several other people also shared it with their friends and family. There's several people praying for me, my family in Cuba, family in Dominican Republic. And as I mentioned, people passed the prayer request to other people. There's a friend, he passed it down to his mother. There's people praying in Puerto Rico. And also in several states. There's people praying for me in Connecticut, in Massachusetts, in Oklahoma. And a little story that my mom told me is that I had my uncle at that time, he lived in the state Connecticut. This is over on the East Coast, a little state. And a close friend, Pastor Ojeda, he lives in Massachusetts. Before he moved to Massachusetts, he lived here in Michigan. He studied at Andrews. And he would take his classes, and in the weekends, he stayed over at our house. So I see him like uncle, he was like family. My uncle, he mentions it to his church, please pray for my niece, my little niece in Michigan. She's in great danger. She's going through a very hard situation. Pray for my niece. Now, Pastor Ojeda in Massachusetts, he says, pray for my amiguita. Amiguita in Spanish, what that means is my little friend. Amiga is friend, and with the amiguita, that means little. Please pray for my little friend in Michigan. So there they are praying in Massachusetts, praying in Connecticut. And they're praying for this little girl in Michigan that's very sick. My mom, she tells me that there were some people, right, they're praying for Ricardo's niece and Pastor Ojeda's little friend. But after a while, they found out, it's the same person. Some people you gave me this prayer request, after a while, they found out it's a little girl that comes from Michigan, that's most likely it's the same person. So this prayer request, it was going over through the East Coast of this country. And as I mentioned earlier, prayer, it has power. Prayer is a gift God has given us. It has power. When we pray, we need to have faith. We need to trust in God. He listens to all of our prayers. But, praise be to the Lord, he healed me. I was in coma for approximately, it was a total of about 5 days. After 5 days, when they wake me up, all I could do is move one hand. It was just one hand. I couldn't speak, I couldn't walk, I couldn't eat on my own. I was pretty much like a newborn baby. I had to learn all these things over again. So they sent me over to take some therapy to Mary Free Bed. There, over at Mary Free Bed, I had to start over. There, I had to learn how to eat, I had to learn how to walk, I had to learn how to speak. My parents told me that the therapist told them that that I was only going to speak one of the both languages that I speak. As you guys must have noticed, I'm bilingual. I speak Spanish and English. They said she's only going to grab one of both languages. Praise be to God, I was able to grab both languages that spring. It reminds me of the verse Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I was able to speak both languages. I was able to walk. I pretty much became a normal 6-year-old. No longer did I have encephalitis. That's over with. I could walk. I could eat on my own. And Mary Free Bed, this therapy, I do remember a little bit. I do have a few memories of there. I was there for a total of about 1 month. And I remember I'll say if I could remember, but there is this picture of me with my cap, my gown, and my kindergarten certificate. Several people went to visit me, and like I said, I was at GRA at the time, the Grand Rapids Adventist Academy. My teacher, Mrs. Orozco, she went to visit me, and she took all of that, and she said, let's take a picture. Several years ago, I did not like that picture at all. I'm like, I look terrible. I'm there with all these cords, all these tubes. I'm like, I look so sick. I don't look great in that picture. But nowadays, I'm like, thank God I have this picture, you know? I didn't have to repeat kindergarten. I didn't have to repeat any grade. Praise be to the Lord. Well, after a month of being there in therapy, I'm sent home. So it's summer. It must be June, around mid-June, around that time, and I'm doing fine. But after a few months that I was sent home, I have another seizure. My parents, they take me to the hospital. We're at the hospital, and I'm diagnosed with epilepsy. Now, epilepsy, that's a common disease. Epilepsy, many people get that disease. From little research that I did, it says that 1 in 26 people get epilepsy at one point in their lives. It's pretty common. Now let us go to the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 12. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, I'm going to read verses 7 through 10. Just to let you guys know, in case you guys did not know, this book was written by Paul, the Apostle Paul. 2 Corinthians 12, verses 7 through 10. And it reads, "And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly therefore will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches and necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake, for when I am weak, then am I strong." Paul, he had a health issue. Something was wrong with him. Thrice, that means 3 times, he prayed to God, heal me, heal me, heal me. God did not heal him. God said that with that weakness, you could see more of his strength. He is stronger. And then Paul says, may I go through all these challenges, may I go through all these things, for when I am weak, then am I strong. God is there with me. I know God is with us. I know God is with me. He allowed me to have this epilepsy. I don't know why, but that's no reason to be mad with him. For some reason, he allowed, after the encephalitis, which was a very hard situation, I was put in coma. Look at that. I have epilepsy. But for some reason, God allowed it. Look at Paul. He wanted to be healed, but he understood God right away. He's like, may I go through all these issues. God is with me. You could see more of the strength of God. Now let us go to the book of John. John chapter 16, verse 33. I'll read it. Well, I'll say it again. John 16, verse 33. It says, "These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." God, he is with us. We all have tribulations. We all have issues. As I mentioned in the beginning, even Jesus, when he was here, he went through problems, through challenges. But God, he already overcame the world. He is there with us. If we may have a health issue, if we may be going through a hard situation, God is there with us. He wants us to have peace. He wants us to be calm, to trust in him, because he is there with us. Now let us go to Romans 8:28, which was the scripture reading. Romans 8:28. And it says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose." God has a purpose for each one of us, For every person, he has a for every person, he has a purpose. But it's our decision if we're going to live that purpose. God is not going to force anyone to live his ways. But if we follow his ways, if we love him, something good could come out of anything bad. If we're in prison, if we, as I mentioned earlier, if we have a health issue, if a loved one is going through something good could come out of it. We just have to trust him, love him, and follow his way, take his path. For, like I said, I went through encephalitis, and I have wondered, like, if I didn't go through this, where would I be today? Something good could come out of it. Because I had encephalitis, I have lots of faith today. I believe in God. I'm not saying I have perfect faith. No, I have asked God for faith before when I think I don't have enough. And I definitely believe in prayer. Prayer, I've mentioned it already more than once. It's a gift God has given us. I know for certain, no doubt, that God listens to every single prayer. I know God listens to prayer. If I had not had encephalitis, if I did not know this story that many people prayed, would I have the faith I have today? Would I have such trust in prayer that I do today? I don't think so. This verse right here, like I said, something good could come out of any challenge, anything, any issue. And out of the encephalitis, it has allowed me to have more faith, to trust in prayer. Now let us go to the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 1. And we're going to read verses 3 and 4. And it says, "Blessed be God, even the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies, and the God of all comfort, who comforteth us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God." Going through these tribulations, through these issues, could help us help others who are going through tribulations, through certain issues. This reminds me of a teenager in my job. As Pastor Dan told you guys, I work with youth. At my job, there was this teenager who was very quiet. He didn't really speak much. And I wanted to get to know him better. He's going through problems and stuff, and he's keeping it all to himself. He's not really sharing. In this job, sometimes I'm with several teenagers, and sometimes I could be one-on-one with them. There was one night that I was able to speak with him one-on-one. I know he's going through a hard situation, and I tell him, we all go through problems. We all go through issues. As a child, I was put in coma. Just by saying those few words, he opened up, and he started to tell me of his problems. He tells me, I'm having these nightmares every night, that I'm shooting several people. I'm shooting, and at the end, someone shoots me, and I'm having these terrible nightmares every night. And he tells me, my grandmother, she's into witchcraft. I want to be out of this. I don't want to be in witchcraft. And for me, it's a blessing when I could speak to these youth about God, when I could be a missionary at my job. And I share more of my story, not as detailed as I'm sharing it with you guys, but I tell him, I was put in coma. There was prayer. God listens to our prayers. I share to him, God exists. God, he listens to us. Not always do we get what we want, but I tell him witchcraft is something terrible. Thank God, he doesn't want to be involved in this. But then, as I said, this is a teenager, a young man. He's a bit confused and tries to tell me that there's a good side to witchcraft. He tells me, there's these people that they're sick, and if you do some witchcraft, they're healed. I'm like, there's no good side to witchcraft. No. Like, I'm telling him, this comes from the devil. The devil, he could try and trick you. He tries to trick us all the time. There may be something terrible, and he disguises it. He tries to make it look better, tries to make it look good. There is nothing good to witchcraft. Thank God you don't want to be involved in this, but there is no good into it. That night, I remember I prayed for him. I continue praying for him. And that night, I told him Psalms 23. I sung to him the hymn As the Deer. And I told him, I will have you in my prayers. I'm going to pray for you. and I will continue doing and praying for you. I haven't seen him in a few months. I don't know what he's up to today. I hope he's out of it. But because remember, God, he listens to our prayers. Something like this, like witchcraft, if someone wants to get out of it, definitely, of course, God is going to take you out of that. That's completely the devil. That has nothing to do with God. May this child, may this youth be out of it. I'm telling you guys this little story because as we read in the book, it could comfort others. All I told him was coma. I mentioned to him I was in a coma, and right there he opened up. I told him a little bit of my story, and he felt more calm. He seems like he had a bit more peace that night. But the story, it does not end there. Oh, where is it? Here we go. As I mentioned to you guys, I was diagnosed with epilepsy a few months after I had been healed from encephalitis. In 2017, I had brain surgery. Back in high school, I have a friend that she had epilepsy, but she was healed. No longer does she have it today. She told me of a brain surgery that they removed some brain tissue, and then that heals the epilepsy. But you guys know the brain is a very delicate organ. The brain, from the brain is that we could speak, that we could move, that we could walk, that we could see. From the brain pretty much is what gets us into action, correct? And my neurologist, he had never mentioned this surgery to me before. My friend, she's the one that mentioned it to me. And let's see, in 2017, I already had over about 10 years of having epilepsy. And I mentioned it to my neurologist, and he tells me he had not mentioned it to me because most likely it won't work for me. But I'm like, no, I want the surgery. I have faith, I put it into prayer, I have hope that God is going to heal me. So before a surgery, more tests are done. They don't just put you into surgery. Several tests need to be done, right? They need to make sure that the body, that it's fine to do the surgery. So several tests are done. They make sure they can open up my brain. It's okay to do it. It's fine. It won't hurt me. I remember signing that if anything goes wrong, it's on me. I'm the one that decided to have the surgery. So they open up my brain. I mean, not my brain, my head. And they do some testing. Because before removing a piece of the brain, they have to make sure, is it worth it? They're not just going to remove it right away. So they open up my head, I have the surgery, and they do other tests on me to see if they can remove that piece from where I have epilepsy. Because, as I mentioned, the brain is very delicate. Epilepsy is very common, but not everyone has epilepsy from the same side of the brain. Some people might have it on the left hemisphere, on the right hemisphere, on a different part of the brain. Epilepsy could be from any part of the brain. So there are those tests that they do on me. I remember very well back in 2017 when I'm in the hospital, after they have done the first brain surgery, when they're doing the testing. My neurologist, he walks up to me and said, we're going to do a test. I'm going to show you a few things. You tell me what they are. He shows me a pencil. I say, a pencil. And I remember very well when he shows me some scissors. He asked me, what is this? I know exactly what it is. I try to say it, but I can't. I can't say it. I had prayed for this. I had hope. But my neurologist tells me, if we remove that little piece of brain, that brain tissue, you will not be able to speak. There's proof right there. He shows me scissors. I know exactly what it is, but I can't, it doesn't come out of my mouth. I can't pronounce the word scissors. I can't say it. He says, it's your decision. We remove it. You don't have epilepsy, but you will be mute. You won't be able to speak. Or you stay with the epilepsy. I get sad, I'm like, why? Why did God not heal me? I had the hope, I had the faith, but for some reason, God did not heal me. For some reason. And remember, you guys, we're sinners, we're humans, we don't have the capacity to understand everything. Why did God allow me to have encephalitis as a child? Why did God allow me to have epilepsy? Why did he not heal me in 2017? I don't know. Those are answers I have for him when he comes back in the second coming. For some reason, God allowed it. But as we read in Romans 8:28, something good can come out of something bad. I have asked myself, where would I be today if I had not gone through the encephalitis back when I was a child? Would I be in church today? As you guys know, many youth have dropped out of church, and many youth are dropping out of church today. You go to several Adventist church, there are not many youth. At my church, for several years, I was the only member in the 20s. I'm like, I'm happy. I love my church, but I'm like, what? Like, I remember back when I was a teenager, there were more youth. They turned 18, boom, they drop out of church. They don't want to go to church. But I believe going through this has helped me stay in church, has helped me have the faith I have today, the trust I have in God today, the prayer. Having that faith, that disease has allowed me to have that. The epilepsy, I don't know why God hasn't healed me, but for some reason, God did not heal me. And also going through this has helped me help others. As I mentioned, the young boy at my job, he seemed to be comforted after I told him a little bit of my story. We all go through challenges. Even though I have epilepsy, I made it through school and I made it through college. Praise the Lord, I made it through elementary, through middle school, through high school. As Pastor Dan told you guys, I got my degree in psychology. I'm an alumni from Grand Valley State University. God, he's with me. I know that he is, no doubt. Every morning, Lord, be with me. When he's knocking there in our hearts, Lord, come in, be with me today. And something that I want to let you guys know is that, well, I have mentioned faith several times, but even though I have epilepsy, I don't have like much fear, I'm going to have it at the wrong moment. For example, I've gone on walks and stuff, a 15-minute walk, 20-minute walk, even a 30-minute walk from my house. I haven't had a seizure in the middle of the road, crossing the street. God, he's there with me. I know he's there. Not only is God, but also my guardian angel. We all have our guardian angels. They're right there with us. I go on a walk. It's not like I'm afraid, oh no, I'm going to have a seizure. No, God, he's with me. I could have one right now, but no, God is with me right now, right? I know he is, no doubt. We need to have trust in God. God, he loves us and he wants what's best for us. We go through challenges. Let us not, we might get mad at God or something, but don't be mad. For some reason, he allows it. I'm not mad at God that he didn't heal me back in 2017. I pray every day. I pray several times. I'm like, God, be with me. Help me be a missionary. I did the missionary training program. In that, we preached on some students in Michigan State University. We learned how to be missionaries, not only in universities, but in our jobs, even in church if we have to. Apart from that, with campus, I did the public missionary training, and that's in the university. So I was at Grand Valley State. There we had a small Bible study group. There we read the Bible. I remember there's a friend, he's not Adventist. He would come every week and we would read the Bible. We had our talks, we had our disagreements. He keeps the Sunday. I'm like, where in the Bible does it say to keep the Sunday? Look at the fourth commandment. I'm like, we would have our disagreements, but he would read more and more. And I believe he got closer to God. I remember one day he told me, yeah, Christians shouldn't be celebrating Halloween. You guys know many religions celebrate Halloween, but it shouldn't be celebrated, right? I'm like, look at that. He's not Adventist, and he agrees with me that that's a holiday that should not be celebrated. I have been learning how to be a missionary. We are all to be missionaries. Or remember that verse that says, let us go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I think I'm a bit off topic right there, but let us continue on. Well, to conclude, let us go to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah 41:10. One of my favorite verses. And it says, fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. God, he's there with us. but we have to accept him. God is not going to force anyone. It's our decision to accept him, to believe in prayer, and to have faith. Blessings. Well, I hope you guys were touched by this story. May God bless you guys.
Amen. Number 512.